Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for all the folks joining us today for our next installation of the Build Your AutoCAD IQ webinar series. My name is Alex Pena, and I will be co-presenting with my colleague Ashley Luce. This webinar introducing the customization features within AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT 2018. We're thankful for you folks joining us today. We do know that a lot of you are a lot of your coworkers or colleagues may be at Autodesk University at this time, so we're thankful to have you here. To give you a further introduction, kind of have a slide here. Ashley Luz, who is a technical support specialist out of the Boston office. I, Alex Pena, a technical support specialist out of the Boston office as well. And Bryce Sullivan, who would be moderating along with us. He will be monitoring the chats, answering hopefully any questions you folks may have. This is, I think, the first time we've had both presenters coming out of the same office, so hopefully it proceeds a nice, calm, and smooth webinar. As I did mention, feel free to leave any questions in the chat window. We'll answer as time allows. Normally, as these kind of go through, we will have time at the end to answer any questions that, in a sense, were answered in the chat window, or if anything comes up at the end that might be of interest. A lot of times we'll try our best to reach out to you. If we can't answer it on the spot, we can definitely try to get back to you through our email alias. These sessions will be recorded as they always are. The links are always available in the registration reminder email, the post-webinar survey, or in the chat window. You can always check into our YouTube channel where we'd like to upload all of these videos for your viewing pleasures. You can visit them as often as you'd like. And feel free to share them with any of your colleagues if it seems like something they might benefit from. Now to kind of go through a few of the upcoming webinars, we are wrapping up our year here and have two on the docket remaining. December 14th, 2017, we're hoping to get a 3D modeling and rendering webinar. And then January 18th, our AutoCAD for Mac kind of release and presentation along with features and new things for all of our Mac users. One thing that I do want to mention to you folks is that there's a chance that these two get switched around depending on the availability of our Mac specialists. If it kind of becomes advantageous to do the December 14th deadline, and we might switch these around, but you will receive an email with an update as to which one you're kind of expecting to see. That way you do have that, you can prepare accordingly on your end. You can always watch these, as I mentioned, on our webinar playlist on YouTube. And there's a bunch of great ones there already pre-recorded. A lot of times we kind of urge folks to go in there beforehand and try to check out if there's anything that might help them out if they're trying to learn customization. There's basically anything from A to Z in there as far as anything you could want to learn about AutoCAD. As always, we like to supply some helpful links for folks. This is an introduction to customization within AutoCAD, so we're expecting some newer users. And with that being said, we always like to supply information as to how they can get started, where they can find the resources to help themselves. We at Technical Support do love helping folks, but there's a chance where they can, in a sense, help themselves and find the information. We would prefer that as well. So we like to create content, and these are a bunch of the links that you can kind of go through and figure stuff out before approaching us. And on today's agenda, which seems to be a decent amount of things, we're kind of trying to delve into as many different topics when it comes to customization and kind of open the eyes for folks as different things that they can accomplish to make their workflows more efficient, more ergonomic in a sense. Workspaces, we'll go into what are workspaces, managing them, creating custom workspaces, transferring them. If folks have an advantageous kind of workspace they want to share with a coworker, this will kind of show them how to do that. We'll also go into scripts, how to load them, command aliases, customizing with Exchange apps, data extraction with Excel, and kind of one of the more important topics which kind of gets overseen, resetting and backing up and importing settings. As you're doing a bunch of customization, there's always an instance where something goes wrong or unexpected, and as opposed to panicking. We want to make sure you folks are prepared for how to deal with that. In a sense, backing up the settings, getting your program back up and running, and then seeing how you can mitigate any issues is our goal for today. Before we get started and kind of start seeing some of this stuff in AutoCAD, I'd just like to go ahead and select some polls here to see what kind of audience we have. And the first poll we'll launch now is this your first Autodesk Help webinar? I'd like to see if we have some opening users and some users that have been here often, and I'll let you guys continue voting in here until I get around 100% voted. So it's looking like about 92% have been here before. For the 9% that this is your 8 to 9% here, we'll close this one out. I'll share it. For the first 9% here that haven't attended one, welcome to the webinar series. Hopefully you can learn some new things that will help you kind of with your workflows. It is good to see that folks are coming back, so I think that we're not scaring them away, as that's a positive sign. I'll do a couple more just to try to see here. This one, I just kind of want to see what folks are using as far as different applications of AutoCAD, whether it's a mostly Windows version or AutoCAD for Mac folks. As I mentioned, we do like to try to get into webinars for the AutoCAD for Mac folks, as oftentimes this webinar series is geared toward the Windows versions. The AutoCAD for Mac will kind of go through a deep dive in most instances when we do create that webinar. And so we're looking at mostly AutoCAD for Windows, AutoCAD LT for Windows audience, which kind of this webinar will be perfectly geared toward. If there are any instances where commands or certain features aren't included in the LT version of AutoCAD, we will be sure to remind you of that. Just most of the times we do try to create things that are compatible between both versions, but in some instances that's not possible, so just kind of let you know. We'll hide that one here and just have one more. Do you currently use workspaces when you're working in AutoCAD? So it looks like this is closer to a split decision than I expected. Let's see, about 81% of folks have voted. Let's leave it open for a little bit longer. Alrighty, so we got about 58% say no, 42% say yes. Now, this is actually just a trick poll that I wanted to throw in there. Theoretically, in most instances, folks are always using workspaces when they're working in AutoCAD. It may not, in a sense, be a customized one where folks have gone in and changed around any of the toolbar or ribbon or any of the commands around. But just like with layer 0, you need something to draw on, and by default, AutoCAD will actually prompt you with a default workspace, which we'll get into now. So I'll hide that. And what we can do is see this in AutoCAD now. Now, Ashley, are we able to see my screen right now? And let me know if you can see that. Now we're all set. So what I wanted to kind of show you folks is, as mentioned before, we'll get into the beginning of workspaces. Workspaces are sets of menus, toolbars, palettes, and ribbon control panels that are grouped and organized so that you can work in a custom, task-oriented environment. As many folks know, you kind of go in here, you get the AutoCAD core, you just download it, and this is, in a sense, what it looks like. A lot of folks like to move these around depending on when they started using AutoCAD. One way might be more comfortable for them than another. So when it comes to drafting, everyone does have their own setup that they prefer, and this is kind of just going into different ways where you can manipulate that setup. And workspaces are a great way to kind of separate tools. If you're in a 2D environment or you're drafting in 2D and you're preferring to do that, you can use tools that are going to be just for 2D. Once you're moving into 3D, there's separate tools that are going to be used. So you can have a separate workspace so that way you can separate and have a less cluttered environment. So the first thing that most folks would like to know is how do you even find what workspace you're in? How do you switch to different workspaces? And the first place is right here in the top left-hand corner in the drop-down arrow of your quick access toolbar. If you click here, you're prompted with options. Everything that is checked actually is currently displayed as an icon up top here. What we want to check on is workspace. Once you see this, it'll basically mention the drafting and annotation toolbar workspace, and this is the one that comes default with AutoCAD LT. I'm using LT 2018 for a reason that we'll get into a little bit further, just to show the differences between LT and AutoCAD when it comes to workspaces. But here you'll be able to notice that you have your drafting and annotation, and you have a few other settings that we can go to. The bottom right-hand side as well, you'll be able to access this workspace settings dialog. And if what you want to look for is a gear that is displayed here. By default, the gear should be displayed. I've gone through and removed it just to let you know, folks know if you're ever in an instance where you're looking for it and you can't see it here, you can just click on the bottom right-hand corner on the customization icon. And this, again, whatever is checked off will be displayed down here with an icon. What we want to do is make sure workspace switching is on. And there we have our gear. What it does, it just basically represents the exact same information in a different area. Some folks would prefer to have it up here, some down here. If you did want it to display the name of the workspace, if you have multiple spaces, want to make sure you're in the correct one, you can always click on display workspace label. So this is a really cool way to kind of switch between different areas and very quick and easy to kind of get into. To kind of see what we have available to us, what we can do is actually go in here into the workspace settings, which brings up the dialog box. If you have multiple spaces, they will all display here in this drop-down. We currently only have one. One thing that I kind of like to stress to folks, we here at technical support see a lot of cases where folks will come in and say, I've changed around my toolbars. I want my palette to be here. I want my tool palette to be on the other side. But every time I exit out of the program and relaunch it, everything's missing. This is where you can click on this automatically save workspace changes. What this does is any changes that you make to your environment as to what you're working in will be automatically saved. And from there, you shouldn't have any issues as to relaunching and exiting out of the program. If something happens unexpectedly, all your changes will be saved. This is personally one of the first things I like to do, just because I don't like to have to do multiple steps of the same thing just to try to get this to work. There are instances where some folks, where this might not be advantageous if you're using any type of public environment where, say, a computer lab of some sort, you don't want to save all the changes and kind of mess the next person up. But this is, for right now, we'll hit OK, and any changes that we make now should be saved. Now, when you want to start setting up, you just want to think of the commands that we're going to be using often. If you're drafting and you use move, copy, mirror, or rotate often, you want to make sure that that's readily available for yourself, as this is kind of what we want to do, is set it up so anything that's extra isn't really needed, and just what we need for the workspace itself is what we'd want. So what I'll do is I'll move this guy here. I just want to be able to grab the modify. I'll grab the layers palette and move it down here. We'll grab up some utilities, exit out of the properties. Don't really need that right now. I want some more space to be able to draft. And we'll move this around. Now for me, this would work, and this is what I prefer to do. What I can do is just click on this drop down again and save current as. What this allows me to do is save this workspace as it is and give it a name. So now I'll be able to toggle between the default one that was prompted to me by AutoCAD LT and the one that I just created. I'll call this one sample test 1. So now you'll see that I have it in my drop down, and I can actually switch between these at any point. If I go to drafting and annotation, it's back to my default. If I go to sample test 1, it is exactly where I want everything to be. And this is, again, pretty convenient if you're doing any type of task-based based work. If you have folks from different departments that may have different blocks, or if you do one thing for an extended amount of time, but now you're switching over, you can have different workspaces. That way you don't have to necessarily clog up or clutter up one over the other. Now, if another thing that you can do is if you did want to, for example, add certain things onto a workspace that's already been created, I can go through here and add this, remove this, and if I wanted to just save over this initial one, I would use the save current as again, use the sample test, and what it's going to prompt me is there's already an existing one. Do I want to replace it? All I want to do is hit replace, and from there now this has been completely updated to the what I currently need in a sense. Now, the drop-downs are a good way to be able to manipulate a lot of these workspaces. There's also another way where we can kind of create workspaces and kind of edit them and overwrite them or do whatever we need, and that's using the customized user interface dialog box. And the way that I would access this, I can either go to the Manage tab and hit the user interface here, and it prompts me with this sometimes intimidating dialog box for folks, or I can just on the command line type in CUI and hit enter. One thing that I do like to kind of stress in a sense for this, most instances in this dialog box, anything on the left will be things that you're actually working on. So the edits will be made here, and then the representation of the edits will be placed here. That's kind of the easiest way to read it. You do have commands here, and we do have webinars that kind of go in through how to create commands, so I won't necessarily be going into that. We do have some that will kind of show you how these macros are created, so you can go through and create your own kind of the explanation of the each one of these symbols. But for now, we'll just kind of stay here in the AutoCAD LT, get familiar with the dialog box, and what we want to do in order to try to see if we can manipulate this is right-click on the workspace, and this will allow us to create a new one. Similar to how we created a new one over here, and we'll call this one test 2. And from here, what you can see is if I were to basically click on this and expand any of these toolbars or palettes, or it'll let me know what exactly is represented in this particular workspace. If I look at my new one, it's very limited as to the information that it's currently on it. It has some palettes that come default with the program, but other than that, it's as bare minimum as it gets. What I want to do is this sample test 2. I want to customize the workspace. Once you click on that, you'll notice that each one of these becomes blue. That means that you're currently in the edit process. From here, you'll be able to edit any of these or add on, in a sense, to this workspace. What we can do is start expanding some of these trees. And what you'll notice is there's a little checkbox next to each one of these. And I can go through toolbars, I can go through ribbons, and it'll separate into tabs. And from here, I'm able to basically select exactly what I want in this workspace. It doesn't have to be more or less. If I want layouts, if I want the viewports, we'll just click on some random ones here. Notice how each one of them gets filed correctly right underneath each one of the categories it corresponds to. If I want the file, edit, menus, if I want the once I'm done editing, I can actually see what the results are. So in the toolbars, I have these menus, I have the file, edit, and view. And once I'm able to see this, I can actually go through, if I'm completely comfortable with what I'm seeing and what I want to actually be displayed, I can hit done. You notice everything goes back to black, and from there the workspace has been completed. What I can do is hit apply and OK. And if I go back into here, I will have it as one of my available drop-downs. If I click sample test 2, it'll just display exactly what I clicked on the CUI editor. Now, in some instances, folks will come in here and notice, like, I've lost most of my things. I don't know how to get it back. One thing that you can always do is click on here. And again, this is your quick access toolbar. You can always go back here to workspace, and choose between the different options if you want to go back to the default one. So that's a really cool way to kind of edit your own ribbon and your own toolbar and have it just as you want it. Very quick and easy. It doesn't necessarily take a lot of time, but very good to know. One thing that I always do like to stress to folks is once you're in here, another cool little trick that some folks may not know is if they, for example, lost the palette, and this doesn't necessarily do with workspaces, but something good to know. A lot of times people are like, I can't find my properties palette, or I can't find my tool palette. If it's off the screen and you can't access it, you can always actually go in here and mess around with the properties of it. So all I did was click on the drafting and annotation default current layout right now workspace. And what I'll do is navigate to the palette and click on properties. What you'll notice here is that you have a few different options as to where it'll orientate once the program starts, or right now on the moment. So what I do is click allow for docking. This allows us to put it on either side of the screen. The orientation will be on the left side. And what I want to do is hit show for yes. We'll hit auto hide. We'll leave that on. And so what this does allows us to basically choose where the property palette will show up when it could be off the screen for whatever reason. It could be wherever in space where you can't find it, and for some reason you can't find it and it's gone. So once I do that, all I did was make sure that it's shown, allow for docking. You can do auto hide on or off. If I do it off, it'll just display. But once I hit OK, you'll notice that the properties palette is now here where it wasn't previously on the screen. So just a quick little trick that a lot of folks can kind of solve an issue that they may have. And now what we want to do is, now that we have these different spaces and these are customized to exactly how we want them to be, you would like to, in a sense, share them or transfer them to one of your colleagues. And the way that we would do this is by typing in CUI again, coming into the customized user interface. And on the transfer tab here, notice how there's two sides again. The left side is the current space or customization file that I have open, this AutoCAD LT.cuix. It has all three spaces that I've created. And on the right side, we have a chance where we can either already create a new file, or we can search for one. And what I want to do is actually search for example, someone sends me the AutoCAD customization file. So what I'll do is open up the AutoCAD 2018, not AutoCAD LT. And from here, it's going to give me three different workspaces. And the good thing about this and transferring it over, you get the CUIX file from somebody, and all you got to do is just navigate to where you have it saved, and it'll open up all these different workspaces for you. It'll have the 3D modeling and 3D basics. Okay, honestly, 3D modeling sounds pretty awesome. All I have to do is drag and drop it here, and now I have that part of my workspace. This is part of my current workspace here in AutoCAD LT. I can set it as a current workspace. I hit apply, and what I want to do is now see what I actually received from the AutoCAD. What we end up seeing is a kind of a limitation, and something that I like to let folks know about. A lot of times we'll have folks that come in and they want to import a tool palette that they received from somebody else, and they're assuming that the tool palette was created in AutoCAD. In some instances, depending on what program you're using or what customization file was it created in, you may not have access to those commands. For example, the 3D modeling commands are coming in as question marks within AutoCAD LT because they're not available. It's not compatible with the program. These are features that aren't included in LT, so I won't be able to access them. Some instances, folks have palettes that were created in Civil 3D, for example, and they're expecting to have now surface features within AutoCAD. It's not going to work that way. You're still going to have the limitations of the program you're using, but it is something to keep in mind if you have folks who are working on the verticals of the program, things like Plant 3D or Civil 3D, just to make sure that anything that you're trying to import is actually from the program itself. So we'll go back and switch this. And just to kind of close up on the actual workspaces, the one thing that I do want to remind the folks is kind of bringing in older CUIX files. A lot of folks will say, hey, I'm basically coming in and I want to import a CUIX file from an older version of the program or one that I've been using forever. It's definitely possible to do with the program. The one thing that I would recommend is if you're capable of keeping the program installed on the machine, transferring it will be a lot easier than trying to do this from somebody else's machine or some sort. If you're capable of, say, in a sense, keeping the 2017 version, and it's good practice to, in a sense, either A, export your settings, so you do have those available to yourself, export all custom settings before you upgrade. Make sure you have them available on a different location, so if you do decide to delete the program before upgrading, you still have access to those files. If not, there's no problem with having the 2017 version of AutoCAD installed and then downloading the 2018, as you will be prompted once you start the 2018 version to migrate all your files from the previous version. This is very advantageous just because you don't actually have to do any of the work yourself. All you have to do is install the newer version, migrate all the settings, and then from there, it'll just be all the settings done for you. So one thing that, just as a note in a sense, to make sure to keep that new version of the program installed, the older version of the program installed. But that's what I have right here for workspaces. What I can do now is switch it over to Ashley, and she'll kind of go through the rest of the agenda for us.
Thanks, Alex. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, can hear you great.
All right. I'm going to make myself the presenter. Let me know when you can see me, okay?
I can see.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So the first thing that I'm going to go over is a little bit about scripting. Maybe some of you are familiar with it, you use it often, or you've never even heard of it. So, so what is a script? A script is basically a piece of code that can be used to help automate some tasks in AutoCAD. So you can create a script outside of AutoCAD using a text editor. So for example, I have a Windows, so I'm going to use Notepad, or there are other programs. Another one is called Atom, and I believe if you're using a Mac, you can use a text edit. Maybe I may be wrong, but I believe you can use text edit if you're using a Mac. So just as an example, here I have Notepad++, and here's just an example of a simple script. To run the script in AutoCAD is very, very easy. So the script that I'm going to run is going to create a classic workspace. So to run a script, all you have to do is type in script, and then that's going to prompt you to open up the actual script. So one thing that's important is that whenever you write a script, the file extension has to be .scr. So I'm going to go ahead and open this, and then you'll see now that I have a classic workspace. So, and as Alex just mentioned, you can all about customizing workspaces. I'm going to go back to the drafting and annotation one for now, but that's how you can load a script. So the next thing I'm going to talk about are command aliases. And what a command alias is it's basically an abbreviation of a command name. So instead of typing the entire command out, you can just type in part of the name, or one letter. So for example, instead of typing the command circle, I can just type in C, and then that'll prompt me to create a circle. So what we can do is, if we want to change the command aliases, we can go into the Manage tab, and then in the Customization panel, here we have Edit Aliases. So we're going to select Edit Aliases, and so this is this new window is going to appear, and I know what I'm trying to find, but I'm not exactly sure where it is in the window, so I'm just going to use Control F, and I want to change the copy command. So I'm just going to move this here. Okay. So right now the copy command is CO. So I'm going to change it to CPY, and then I'm going to close this, and then if I type in CPY, And then I can move that. So you can very easily change the command aliases using that. And you can do it in both AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT. You can do it in both. I believe, though, in the light version, it may be a different panel. I'm not sure about that, but in the full version, you would go into Manage and then the Customization panel and edit aliases. You can also, another way you can customize AutoCAD is by using Exchange apps. And what they do is Exchange apps provide additional functionality within AutoCAD. So if you go to the featured apps, and then you click on Connect to App Store, what that's going to do is that's going to connect you directly to the App Store. And here you can select the product that you're using. So I'm using AutoCAD, but you can also select Maya, Inventor, 3ds Max, Civil 3D, whichever product that you're using. And they have both free apps and then apps that you pay for as well. So now one of my actually favorite parts is using, I will show you here, data extraction tables with Excel tables. So on my screen here, you can see that I have set of bolts, and I've added a grade. So what we're going to do is, what I have here is an Excel file with just a little bit of information here about specific that I'm using in my drawing. So AutoCAD has a really excellent tool to help you link the information in the Excel file with the information in your AutoCAD drawing. So if we go back to AutoCAD, here I have, I've created a bolt as a block and then added the grade attribute. So I have A325, A307, DIN 603, and I've just made the grade, I've added the grade that I've had the same grade, and then I've added a different grade. So if we go into the Insert tab, and then we go over to the Linking and Extraction panel, and we click on Data Extraction, what that's going to do is that's going to open up a wizard. And the really great thing about the wizard is that it's pretty intuitive, and you can always go back to the previous step if you made a mistake or if you need to change something. So when I click on this, it's going to open up, there's 8 steps in the wizard. So this is the first step, and in the first step, we're going to select the option Create a New Data Extraction. So if we click Next, what that's going to do is we're going to name our list. So I'm going to call it Bolt List. I'm going to click Save, and then what that's going to do is that's going to take us to the second step in the data extraction wizard. Now in this example, we're only going to use a single drawing, the drawing that I have here, but you can also add multiple drawings, or you can add all the drawings in a single folder. So it's really helpful in that way. But again, just to keep things simple, I'm just going to use the one drawing for now. So when we click Next, what that's going to do is it's going to scan through our drawing. Now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this option, Display Blocks with Attributes Only, and then I'm going to leave this one selected here, and then I'm going to click Next. Now here, I have a lot of data fields, so the only one that I want right now is grade. So I'm actually going to deselect grade, and I know this may seem a little bit counterintuitive, but there is a method to the madness. So if I right-click on grade and I select invert selection, that's actually going to deselect all the fields that I don't need and just leave the one that I do need selected. So I'm going to click Next. So as you can see, it's gone through the drawing and found that with a grade of DIN 603, I have one instance of that. With a grade of A307, I have one instance of that in the drawing. And then with a grade of A325, I have 2 instances of that in the drawing. Now I'm also going to click on the grade header just so that I can sort it by that. And then what we're going to do is, before we go to the next step, this is really important to click on Link External Data. And what that's going to do is we're going to create a new link to our Excel spreadsheet. So to do that, we're going to click on this icon here, it's the data link manager, and we're going to create a new Excel data link, and I'm going to call that bolt list, and then we'll click OK. And then we're going to browse for our Excel file that I showed you earlier. We're going to click on that. And then what that's going to do is in the bottom here, it's going to give us a preview of our table. So once we've done this, we'll click OK, and we have that selected, so we'll click OK again. And then in this part, what we're going to do is we have two sections here. So we have the drawing data column, and we have the external data column. Now in both, I'm going to select grade, because this is the name of the block attribute inside of my drawing, so I just want to make sure that they match. And you can verify that by selecting check match. The key pairing was successful, so that's okay. And then we're going to click OK there. And so now, once we've done that, you can see that all the data that we have listed is now in the preview that we have here. So I'm going to go to next, and then in this part, I'm going to select the option Insert Data Extraction Table into the drawing, and we'll go to next. And then here, we're just going to enter a title for our table. So again, I'm going to call it bolt list, and we'll go to next. So now it's gonna let me add this this bolt list here. Now, so sorry about that. Okay, so here we have our bolt list. One thing we can also do is, let's say that we wanted to add another bolt in here. So I'll do insert. We'll add another one. We'll call this one A325. Okay. Now I have, so right now I currently have 2 instances of A35, although in the drawing I now have 3 instances. So the table is not dynamic in the sense that it will update right away when you add a new bolt. So what I can do is if we click on the table here and we right click and we select update table data links, what that's going to do is that's going to update the table, so we now have the correct number of bolts that are in the drawing actually reflected in the table. So I think that's a really handy feature, and if you have, I know I only had a little bit of data here, but if you have a lot of data, it can really be a huge time saver. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you quickly, and Alex had mentioned this before, when you have a lot of customized settings, sometimes there can be oddities and things that don't go quite right. So in these cases, it can really be helpful to reset AutoCAD to defaults. But if you have a lot of customized settings, you want to make sure that you keep those. All the time that you've spent working on those, that you don't lose them. You're able to preserve them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to close down this. So on our in Windows, what we're going to do is we're going to go to All Programs, and we're going to go into the Autodesk folder. Okay, so if we click on the AutoCAD 2017 folder, down here there's an option Reset Settings to Default. So you're going to click on that option. Now this is the really important part. So before you actually reset your settings to default, you have 2 options. The first option is to back up and reset custom settings, which will create a zip file. You can save it on your desktop or wherever you want to, or to reset custom settings. Now if you select reset custom settings, that's going to completely, well, you won't have any more custom settings if you select that option. So for now, I'll select the first one, which will create a zip file. So I'm just going to save it to my desktop, and we'll save that. And then AutoCAD will do its thing and it will reset. So then you'll receive a notice that says your custom files have been backed up and saved. So we'll click OK. And then AutoCAD will reopen automatically. And then to re-import our custom settings, we'll do that now. So I'm just going to wait for this to open, and I'm going to close it. And if we go back into all programs and we select Autodesk, AutoCAD 2017, migrate custom settings, and then import, you have a couple of options: export AutoCAD settings, import AutoCAD settings. We want to import our settings, and then we want to select our zip file that was created, and then that's going to automatically import our custom settings that we had. So you're not going to lose your settings as long as you select that option to back up and reset your custom settings. So Alex, that's about all I have.
Alrighty, thank you, Ashley. What I do want to kind of mention and kind of follow back with folks is that we did mention that if a feature wasn't available within the AutoCAD LT, we would, in a sense, kind of let you know. The edit aliases, and let me just kind of present my screen here, and I can kind of follow back up with some of the things that Ashley did here, just to let folks know where they can find this stuff. Just getting this here. Alrighty. So the edit aliases in AutoCAD LT is in the same spot as it is in AutoCAD. It is under the Manage tab. You're able to kind of go through here and add it in just as she did. The dialog box is actually on the other screen. As far as the kind of linking to the Exchange apps that isn't available in LT, as you'll notice here, you don't have that featured apps feature or tab, I should say. So that's one thing that you folks definitely want to keep in mind. And I think that we have a question in regards to the full data extraction within LT. And
yeah, I saw that question as well. So no, and unfortunately, you can't do the full data extraction in LT. That is only available in the full version. But I know that there are a couple of workarounds that you can do. I was working with someone the other day, and there are a couple of links and videos that I sent him. So if you can just put your email address in there, I can definitely email those to you, because I don't remember the workflow off the top of my head, but there is a way to do that.
And as always, we like to kind of supply some additional resources after the webinar has been completed. And this information is anything for system requirements, downloading AutoCAD 2018. I don't know how many folks are actually working on the latest and greatest version of the program, but it is pretty intuitive. There have been a few updates already released for it, so one thing to keep in mind. And if we have any feedback for us as far as things that you would like to be covered, as the year is closing, we always like to kind of get a customer's perspective on different topics that they would like to be covered. We've, over the time, have gone through as many things as you could possibly think of, and that's why we usually like to encourage folks to head to our YouTube playlist, as it has basically anything you can think of, from customizing macros and creating your own commands to editing AutoCAD to be anything you would like it to be and more, writing custom scripts for it, using list files, anything you can think of that you in a sense you want to expand or want to learn about. It has been done, but if there is something that you see that you would really like us to look into, we love the feedback, and any recommendations would be appreciated. As shown here, you can email us directly on our email alias. And if you could just include in the subject line, Build Your AutoCAD IQ, it would be appreciated. It just helps us kind of filter out the emails from where they need to get to and who the proper person to respond would be. And if we don't have any questions, we could definitely try to look into any of them. I don't know if there's any on the chat right now, Bryce or Ashley. It seems we have one question here. Can you explain where to find the F key functionality, like F3O snap on off? Yeah, I don't know if they could clarify exactly what they're meaning.
Alex, I'll if you want to do that one, I'll go back. Someone had a question about how to change one of the command aliases. Yeah, so I can make my, let me see, I can make myself the presenter, and I can show how to do that again. I'm not sure the other question about the snap, but let me just open up AutoCAD again. Can you see my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so for the command aliases, so I'm using the full version of AutoCAD. So you'd go into the Manage tab, and then it's on the Customization panel, and then you'd go into Edit Aliases, and so I'll just use the copy command again. So okay. So here's the command, and then here's what I changed. So if I want to change it back to CO, I type in CO and then just save that, and then here, let me just do this. Okay, and then if we type in CO, that's again the copy command. So that's how you change. You just go into the Manage tab, Customization panel, and Edit Aliases. I hope that answered your question.
Alrighty, so it looks like there was somebody here who was asking if how do you go back to the original command alias. That I mentioned if you reset to default, all the command aliases will default or revert back to their original one. I'm just trying to see if there's any other questions that we haven't answered. I see someone requested they want to see the slide again. I will kind of present that right now. So you can see the talking points. And Ashley, can you see the slides right now?
Yeah, I can see the slides.
Alrighty, so these were the talking points we kind of discussed today about different workspaces, managing them, all the different things you can do. We will be uploading this webinar very shortly to our playlist. So actually, what you can do is you check in our playlist about 30 minutes or so. This one will be updated, and from there you can actually kind of follow through. Again, any feedback is appreciated, folks. And what we'll be doing is signing off now. But thank you so much for joining in today. We definitely appreciate your company and look forward to seeing you folks next time.
Thank you.